Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to get to the latest now on the assassination attempt against former President Trump at Saturday's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. We're getting some new video in showing different angles of the law enforcement response here. Take a look. One video appears to show officers trying to figure out how to get on the roof where the shooter was located. As for the newest information that we do have here, despite the FBI cracking into Thomas Matthew Crooks' cell phone, scouring his computer, home, and car, and interviewing more than 100 people, why the 20-year-old opened fire on the former president still remains a mystery. While that reasoning behind it is elusive, other details are emerging about who Crooks was. He appeared to be an intelligent loner with few friends, a thin social media footprint, and no hints of strong political beliefs. Still, as I mentioned, the investigations into what happened, why, and how do continue. Want to talk more about all of this here, so let's bring in Toby Braun, the founder of American Special Investigative Group. He's also an expert in threat intelligence, security advancement, executive protection, and active shooter response. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and kind of break down some of the perspective here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. So the big question that so many people are asking, and it appears that no one yet has a clear answer, is how exactly was a gunman able to get onto a rooftop that was so close to former President Trump?
Absolutely.
Coordinated effort, right? I mean, how else? Dude, is it and if not, it's honestly scarier to think that somebody could just do this on a whim. Like, if that's actually what happened, that might be scarier. Well, I don't know. Having people on the inside is pretty damn scary too. It's all scary. What do y'all think? Let's keep going. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button.
And that's really a question the whole world is asking. And first and foremost, I want to express my sincere condolences to the family of Corey Comperatore. He's really the hero in this whole situation. He was the off-duty fire chief who shielded his family and stopped them from getting shot. And really, our hearts as a nation should really go out to him and his family. Now, to answer your question, how did this shooter get so close to President Donald Trump? And I'm really baffled by that. Ultimately, we won't know the entirety of the story and all the answers until the investigation is concluded. But basically, it came down to a massive security failure, a catastrophic security failure. And my biggest question is, why was Donald Trump on that X? The X is considered in executive protection and presidential protection, the point where the president is standing at any point in time. And that is the first thing that an agent is supposed to do, is get him off the X anytime there is any sort of threat intelligence against the president. And it really comes down to two things primarily, and that's communication. Clearly, there was a tremendous lack of communication between local authorities and the Secret Service, and also advancement, including aerial surveillance and your ground surveillance.
And the video you're looking at is just one of the new perspectives that we are getting from some of the folks who are out there. And it looks like this is actually the video that shows the shooter right there. You could see him actually on the roof. And again, this is just some of the video that we have received over the past few hours or so. Now, there are multiple probes into security. Can you kind of explain to me how security works to set up a perimeter for something like this, and how ground, air surveillance, all of that, just kind of a little bit deeper into how that works?
Sure. So first and foremost, the first thing the Secret Service does anytime a protectee goes to an event, they send an advance team. An advance team is a small unit within the Secret Service of various agents, and those agents go out there, and their job is to first and foremost get an idea of the lay of the land, to scope the area, to meet with local law enforcement, to establish a communications plan, to establish an SOP, to establish a command post. A command post would be an area usually off-site. That way, if there's a critical incident, it won't impact the command post, where you have local law enforcement on radio comms, as well as Secret Service radio comms. So that way, because they're not both on the same channel, so that way, if there is an incident, the locals can communicate to command post and vice versa, and that communication gets relayed out. So that is extremely crucial in the advanced process. I don't know if that was done. I would assume it was done, but clearly that communication never happened. And then once these agents are out there and setting up your perimeter security, your fencing, your ingress, your egress. Obviously, there's various credential points. Anytime somebody's close to President Trump, there is various credentials and security checks required. And then people further back in the crowd, they still go through magnetometers at the rallies and everything, which is another thing that the advancement team will be out there setting up. And it's really just setting up all the groundwork. It's important to notate that the agents that are traveling with a protectee at any point in time, those agents have probably never been on site there. So once President Trump gets off the plane, he's in a motor convoy with his, it's called the shift, which is the inner circle of the Secret Service that are the agents that are actually with him at all time, protecting him. And again, that advance is really crucial in guiding those agents on the ground and making sure everything is set up for the president's or the protectee's arrival. So that advancement period is absolutely crucial. We also were talking about ground surveillance, area surveillance. For ground surveillance, we would have a mixture of CCTV cameras. You'd see, you would have agents on the ground that are part of a surveillance team. And you'd also have aerial surveillance, which is a mixture of air support.
You know what's crazy? Look how they were struggling, like police and Secret Service struggling to get on that roof. They said that a cop had fallen off the roof, all this stuff. It was that hard for trained law enforcement and like highly trained Secret Service and special forces, stuff like that, to get on that roof. But this kid just was like, I'm gonna ride my bike in here with a backpack and I'm gonna just get right on it. What? I mean, come on. How does that make any sense at all whatsoever? You know what I mean? It's weird. Y'all hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's keep going.
Your helicopter, and which is mostly local assets, the helicopters. And then you'd also have a drone and potentially infrared thermal imaging cameras and various other assets and technologies to really add to that ground surveillance. And another thing in the advanced process is the CS, the counter sniper team, and obviously there's a lot of questions on that. And that's another huge part of it of scoping out the areas of where your CS team is going to be set up, where your vulnerabilities are, and making sure that all these exits and all these various points where there could be a line of sight picture to the protectee to make sure those are covered.
And on that note right there, do we know yet if the counter sniper team actually followed the rules? Do we know what those rules are? How does all of that work?
So the rules of engagement are very simple. They're the same rules of engagement than they are in using deadly force. And that's really if there's a credible threat, if anytime there is fear that the protectee may be in harm of serious bodily harm or death, they are authorized to use deadly force. There's no prior clearance required for that. If there is a deadly threat, and a guy on a rooftop with a rifle would certainly qualify as a deadly threat, and they don't need any prior authorization there, clearly take that shot. So as far as if they follow the rules of engagement, again, there's a lot of unanswered questions to that. There's now reports coming out that apparently the Secret Service counter sniper team, which again, it's important to notate that President Trump now has a much smaller security footprint in detail than he did when he was in office. So the counter sniper team is much smaller. It's a much smaller element than it would be if he was in office. And there's now reports coming out that a local sniper element of one of the local police departments was responsible for covering that rooftop because the Secret Service counter sniper team did not have a clear line of sight picture on that rooftop, which is certainly possible. And again, that's all information that we're just going to have to wait, unfortunately, until more information comes out to really identify what really happened and did they follow the rules of engagement immediately, or was there a delay because of a line of sight picture and an additional element that was responsible for that area of operation.
Whoa.
And it's almost crazy to look at here because you can see this video. I'm going to pull it up full here so you can get a better look. But what we were seeing was the suspected gunman there on the roof. So you had so many people who were taking videos of this person and trying to point them out to law enforcement there. But the fact that that shot was still able to happen, and we do know that one person did die. Former President Trump was wounded and 2 other people had critical injuries. So it's strange just watching that video right there on your screen. Now, I do want to know, what is the likely community?
Doesn't it make sense that the second somebody sees somebody crawling around on the roof, they just like get everybody out of there. Get Trump in the car, get him headed back to wherever. Just stop it, get down, like, and just like, it makes no sense. Oh my God.
Communication plan between the Secret Service and local law enforcement there.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, that's all part of that plan will be established in the advancement process once those initial agents are on the ground. And a lot of times those agents are on the ground at a minimum of days, but in most cases, weeks and weeks before. And the plan would be, again, setting up a command post, an offsite command post. That way, if there is any sort of attack on the main site, the command post doesn't get impacted, because communication is absolutely crucial. And I believe if we had better communication, this tragedy would have been prevented. And you would have local law enforcement, you would have a dispatch or an officer for each department with a radio in that command post, including a representative for the Secret Service. It's on the Secret Service channel. And that way, and you'd also have fire department. You'd have, you may even have, ground workers on the site, and really any part of your critical incident management team and your stakeholders. And anything that happens on the ground, it gets relayed to the command post, or it should get relayed to the command post. At least that's how it's supposed to happen. And then that way, the respective agencies that are responsible for whatever is going on can then be notified and dispatch their personnel out. So again, it's really important to note, hey, because there's a lot of questions right now on, hey, how come the locals didn't, radio the Secret Service? How come there was this huge delay? It's a question we all have, but I, again, the way I'm sure it was set up, there was a possibility for that to happen, and it should have happened through that command post and through that unified communication. But why that didn't happen, why the shooter was on that rooftop for almost 30 minutes.
Oh my, almost 30 minutes. That's insane, y'all. Like, that is insane.
And they were tracking him too. And how come that wasn't relayed to those shift agents? I am just beyond baffled, and I know the entire world is. So all questions that need to be answered.
All right, Toby, my last question for you here. Do you think that we will ever get those clear answers about what did happen? Are there certain things that we may never know?
Yeah, I can tell you we are going to get more answers. I mean, more answers are coming out daily, right? As we're having this interview, it's likely there's more information that's coming out. Are we going to have the clear site picture? No pun intended. No, we are not. And the reason being is anytime there is an attack on a Secret Service protectee, that is essentially it's classified information. And the reason being is because it's obviously the Secret Service job to protect their protectee. And the more information that's out there, that can potentially expose other security vulnerabilities that can then be exploited or try to be exploited by a copycat. Obviously, those weak points and those vulnerabilities will be patched up. I'm very confident in that. Secret Service is still, the premier federal agency for protection. It's an amazing organization. There's definitely questions that need to be answered and some changes need to be made here. But nevertheless, I'm confident that those vulnerabilities will be patched up. But no, we are not going to have the entirety of everything that happened, every single detail. It's also on that note, recently authorities picked up human intelligence from the Iranians that have also planned an attack against the life of former President Trump. And so again, the threats are out there. Threats are rising, not just for the now presumptive presidential nominee, but also for our country as a whole.
All right. Toby, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and help break all this down. Is there anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
I think that's it. I think it's important to stay vigilant, right? We saw so many people in the crowd that were notifying law enforcement, and my hat's off to those people in there. And it's important to stay vigilant, and to know if you see something, say something. If you can take action, like notifying law enforcement in that situation, do it. Be persistent. Make sure they're on it. And again, stay vigilant. It's really there are some tough times for our country. There are new threats that we are facing every single day, and it's important to not only for our country to unite, but for us to remain extra vigilant and know those threats are out there, and they're unfortunately only increasing.